Alright, so here's the beginning of part 2, and we're going to start rebuilding, well, at least re-gasketing this carburetor. And I've got the new gasket set right here, so let's go ahead and start pulling this bad boy apart. Now, originally when I had taken this thing apart, after I'd started disassembling the motor, I came to the realization very quickly that we were going to have issues with this thing, namely because the little gasket that was on this jet completely disintegrated, and I didn't have another one on hand, but this tiny little O-ring right here is the one that's going to be going onto it. Like I said, I don't have another one of those. So we're going to more or less totally disassemble this carburetor, namely because before I put it back on, I do want to make sure that the carburetor is in fact good. So I'm going to inspect the seat as well, and probably pull out some other things, but unfortunately with this carburetor, as you guys saw in the last video, you can't really get kits for these. This is the kit that they sell for it, and it's just a gasket kit. All these other little jets, you have to buy them separately, by the piece. So we have a few different gaskets. This is the bowl gasket. These go on the sides of the carb right here, and these two small ones are the ones that go on the jets. So in order to take these gaskets off, I just have a small pick that I like to use for this type of job. There's that one. There's our new one that takes the bigger of the two. Now we can remove the gasket from the bowl. Install this new gasket. Of course, we could get to the more difficult ones now. But very carefully, we will install the two smaller ones. These are not hard to lose, that's for sure. But for this one, just going to put it in place. Looks like a really tiny gasket, but hopefully it's the right one. And so very carefully I pulled the little O-ring off of this one. So now we're pretty much ready to go back in, and hopefully this is good enough for this little carburetor. So I just drained out what fluid and oil was left in the block that I didn't suck out with the tool, and refilled it with some clean motor oil. So it seems to be okay now. What I'm going to try and do before I put the gas tank back on is we'll shoot some starting fluid into the throat for the carb, and see if we can't get her to cough or spit or do something. So then we'll kind of know we're on the right path for that. Alright, so off camera and with the tank still off, I sprayed a little bit of gasoline right into the carburetor throat, and it did cough and sputter a little bit, but didn't really want to run. So we'll see if we can get it to start, just as normal like we would any other time. That's interesting. Well, so it's running, but I think the carburetor's got to be adjusted just a little bit. So back to the drawing board for a second, and hopefully we'll figure out what happened. So while I have it running, well, it'll stay running. I'm pretty sure I'm having an issue with the carburetor at this point. There's something going on. I don't know if it's the linkages or if it's the actual carb itself, but for about, I don't know, 10-20 seconds there before I started rolling, I had this thing running. I don't know what's going on with it now. But try as I may, I can't get it to run properly. Now if you'll notice, I took the exhaust off, muffler. That was mainly because I wasn't sure if this thing had a spark arrestor in it or not. It's definitely seen better days, but I don't think that's the issue per se. In fact, I can probably throw this thing back on. Now, when this thing was running, it did sound, I mean, as normal as it could sound. I didn't really see any issue with anything. It seemed like, it seemed like when it was running that, I don't know, maybe something inside of the carburetor's messed up. I have no clue. I have tried cleaning out this carburetor twice in between the last clip you guys saw and this one I'm doing now, and it has not really made much of a difference. So the good news is when it was running and more or less sounding normal, it wasn't puffing out white smoke. It was running fine. It didn't sound like there was any issues. So as far as the rings and the valves are concerned, I think those are okay. But I'm going to try and fiddle around with this thing some more. And really my only other option at this point is to just buy another carburetor. I mean, if I can't rectify it, or maybe it's not something in the linkages, which I've been messing with those the whole time too, I really don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. So I'm going to keep messing with this, and I'll let you guys know what's going on. And I just took the valve cover off and rechecked the valves just for the hell of it, and everything's still good. I have no idea what the problem is. The exhaust side is 0.15, the intake side is 0.10 in millimeters. So they both come in just fine. I don't know what the issue is. Other than the carburetor, I really have no idea what else could be the problem. I mean, since I had it running for that little bit of time, while it was running perfectly fine, or at least seemed to be. I would think that if it was a valve or a timing issue, then that would be present no matter what. It wouldn't just, start running fine and then not. Same with the spark. I wouldn't think that it's a spark issue. I checked the spark at least twice now. So it might just be that I have to pick up a carburetor for this thing and, another one. It doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of people online that say these plastic carbs can have a lot of issues, and mine is definitely having issues. So I don't know, boys. Unless some of you guys have some pointers, I think that might be the next place I go with this thing. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I get this thing done. You all stay classy.